So, good morning everyone. So, my name is Reggie Huntin and my partner is Alchin Halo. So, this morning we're gonna be talking about Republic Act number 8495, known as the Philippine Mechanical Engineering Act of 1998. The first article is titled Statement of Policy and Definition of Terms, Section 1 to 3, and the second article, Board of Mechanical Engineering, Section 4 to 11, and the third article, Examination, License and Registration, Section 12 to 32. And fourth article, Practice of the Profession, Section 33 to 41. And last but not the least, Article 5, Penal and Concluding Provisions, Section 42 to 48. The first article, Section 1, this act shall be known as the Philippine Mechanical Engineering Act of 1998. And the second section or section 2 statement of policy, the state recognizes the importance of mechanical engineers in nation building and development. Their talents through sustainable human development shall be promoted. So, and the last section in Article 1, the definition of terms. The first is practice of mechanical engineering. A person shall be deemed to be practicing mechanical engineering or rendering the mechanical engineering service within the meaning and intent of this act when he performs the following. So the first is consultation, evaluation, investigation, and management services in mechanical engineering. So in engineering, we have design preparation of plans, specification of project studies or estimates. The third is management of supervision of the erection, installation, alternation testing, and commissioning. So management supervision, operation, tending, or maintenance. Management of supervision of the manufacture, sale, supply, or distribution. Teaching of mechanical engineering professional subjects. So example is ato mga instructors sa IT. Ato ang mga teacher na to sa mechanical engineering labi na sa itong mga major subjects. So next is employment in government as a professional mechanical engineer, registered mechanical engineer or certified plant mechanic. So we will tackle that later. So the next is mechanical equipment or machinery. Includes or prime movers such as steam engines and turbines, internal combustion engines and gas engines. So next is mechanical processes, works, projects, or plants. Include steam plants, geothermal plants, standard thermal plants, nuclear plants, ocean thermal plants, conservation plants, internal combustion plants, or other energy resources. And next article is what we call the Board of Mechanical Engineering. And Section 4, Creation and Composition of the Board of Mechanical Engineering, to be composed of chairman, two members appointed by the President of the Philippines, and the last is three recommended ranked in the order of preference submitted to PRC. So, Section 5 is this is the what we call the qualification of members of the board. So, natural born citizen and the resident of the Philippines, and so must be at least 35 years of age. A holder of a degree Bachelor of Science, a professional mechanical engineer with a valid professional license, and an active practitioner. Next is the Section 6 term of office. Shall be hold office for a term of 3 years. A term of office, a member of board shall hold for a term of 3 years from the date of his appointment or until his successor shall have been qualified and duly appointed, unless, however, that such incumbent member has been reappointed for another 3 years term. The next section 7 is compensation and allowance of the board members. The board members of compensation and allowance may be provided for the General Appropriations Act and Section 7. So the chairman and members of the board shall receive compensation and allowance comparable to the compensation and allowance being received by the chairman and members of the existing regulatory board and the commission, and as may be provided for a General Appropriate Act or Appropriations Act in this field. So next section is Section 8, Supervision of the Board Custodian of its records, Secretariat at Support Services. So supervision of the board services. The board shall be under the general supervision of Commission. All records of the board, including applications for examination, examination papers and results, minutes of deliberation, administrative cases, and other investigate cases involving the profession shall be kept by the Commission. The Commission shall be designated the Secretary of the Board and shall provide the Secretariat and other support services to implement the provisions of this Act. So next section is the power and duties of the board. So the first is the promulgate and adopt the rules and regulations necessary for carrying out to the provision of this act. And B is the supervise the registration, licensure and practice of mechanical engineers in the Philippines. Next is to administer odds of in connection with the successful examinees entering the practice of mechanical engineering. Alter D. To issue the certificate of registration to success examinees. Issuehan kanila ang certificate of registration, which is certificate of registration in mechanical engineering. So there is to issue or suspend and or revoke after the due process certificates of registration and issue. Cancel and suspend professional license or cancel special permits for the practice of mechanical engineering. Next is to adopt the official sale of the board. Last is to look into the conditions affecting the practice of the mechanical engineering professions. Next section is section 10, so the annual report. The board shall, close of each calendar year, submit an annual report to the President of the Philippines through the Professional Regulation Commission, giving a detailed account of its proceedings. The next is section 11, removal of board member, first neglect of duty or incompetence. Next is violation or tolerance of the violation of this act or the code of ethics or mechanical engineering. And final judgment of crimes involving moral turpitude. Next is Article 3, Examination, License and Registration. Section 12, Examination required. Undergo and pass. A written technical examination is provided for this act. Next is section is category certificates of registration for the practice of mechanical engineering shall be of 3 categories and in order of rank as follows. So first category is professional mechanical engineer. So the second category is mechanical engineer. And the last category is certified plant mechanic. Section 14 is the qualifications of applicants for professional mechanical engineer. Any applicant to the professional mechanical engineering examination must, at the time of filing of his application, establish to the satisfaction of the board that he is a citizen of the Philippines. He must not have been convicted by the court of law of a crime involving moral turpitude. Next is the certificate of registration, and he is a registered mechanical engineer and holder of a valid professional license. So, money guys, kaning katulog guys, dapat before ka mo ang qualification ani sa mechanical engineering, this app is dapat na lisensya, license sa professional mechanical engineering and registered na ta. So, next is graduated from engineering school. So the next section is section 15, qualification of applicants for mechanical engineer. Any person applying for examination and for the certificate of registration as mechanical engineer shall, prior to admission to the examination, establish to the satisfaction of the board that first is he is a citizen of the Philippines, guys, di mawala siya guys. And he must be convicted by the, pareha na sa next, last section. Section 16 is qualification of applicants for certified plant mechanic. Dapat citizen ka sa Pilipinas, citizen of the Philippines. And second is wala kay mga record, mga crime record involving moral turpitude. And last is makakuan ka, human ka sa mo degree from university or school, college, academy, or institute duly constituted and recognized as such by the government. And same rigapon na sa certified plant mechanic. Any person applying for examination for certificate of registration as certified plant mechanic shall establish to the satisfaction of the board that same na sila sa mechanical engineering qualifications. So next is section 17. So the scope of examination. The scope of examination and the methods of procedure shall be prescribed by the board with special reference to the applicants. A. Professional mechanical engineer. Granting of PME certificate of registration shall be testimonial in nature. Yes. Then submission of engineering report or technical paper pertinent to this line or experience attested by two or more professional mechanical engineer in affidavit. Then B is mechanical engineer. The applicant shall pass a written examination, which is the board exam, and the subjects in which the applicant for mechanical engineer shall be examined are machine design, materials, and shop practice. Second is industrial and power plant engineering. The last is mathematics, engineering, economics, and basic engineering sciences. Letter C is certified plant mechanic. The examination may be written or oral on subject matters based on the following submitted statement of experience. First is the element of power plant machinery. Second is element of industrial plant machinery, and the third is shop machinery and practices. And next section is section 18, the ratings. Average of 70% on all subjects with no rating below 50% in any of the subjects. And the next section is section 19, report of ratings. The board shall submit to the commission the ratings obtained by each candidate within 15 days after the examination. In this next slides, will be reported by Aljon Alob, my partner.
Good morning, everyone. I will be discussing for the topic. So, first is the section 20, which is re-examination, which allows the applicants who fails to pass the board exam 3 times to be allowed to take another examination only after the lapse of 1 year. Next section is section 21. All successful candidates in the examination shall be required to take an oath of profession before the board or any government official authorized to administer the oaths upon entering the practice of mechanical engineering. So section 22 is the issuance of certificates of registration and professional license. This is evidence that the person named therein is entitled to all privileges of a registered and licensed professional mechanical engineer, or certified plant mechanic for as long as the certificate remains valid. Same with the professional license bearing the registration number, date, issuance, and expiry date, which is duly signed by the chairman of the board. For section 23, which is the integration of and accreditation of mechanical engineers, an integrated organization of mechanical engineers shall be created and accredited by the Board of Mechanical Engineering and Professional Regulation Commission. So next is section 24, which is the seal of professional mechanical engineers. So a professional mechanical engineer shall, upon registration, obtain a seal of such design prescribed by the board. Then let's move on to section 25, which is the non-issuance of certificate for certain grounds. The board shall not issue a certificate of registration to any person convicted by court of competent jurisdiction of any crime involving moral turpitude or immoral or dishonorable conduct. Then section 26 is the revocation and suspension of certificate. Shall have the power upon practice, notice, and hearing to suspend or revoke or any certificate of registration of any registrants for any cause specified in the preceding sections. Section 27, which is the grounds for suspension and revocation of licenses. The board shall have the power upon due to hearing, notice, to revoke or suspend the license of mechanical engineers or to cancel a temporary special permit. And section 28, which is the reinstatement and replacement of the certificates. The board, upon application and for reasons of equity, justice, may reinstate the validity of a revoked certificate of registration and professional license upon payment of the required fees at least 2 years after revocation. So, section 29, which is the renewal of license. Renewal of a license can only be done upon payment of renewal fee corresponding to 3 consecutive years. So, next is the vested rights, automatic registration of practicing mechanical engineers. Then, section 31, the coverage of temporary special permits. The following shall be required to secure a temporary or special permits from the board if a mechanical engineers from other countries called in for consultation of a specific design or installation project not requiring more than 3 months of residence in the Philippines in a 12-month period. Then B is foreigners employed as technical officers, training officers, or consultants in branches of mechanical engineering. They may be issued temporary permits if there is a non-availability of mechanical engineer and or mechanic in the country. The foreigner must have been in prior employ of the engaging firm. Any particular or specific engagement shall not be in excess of 6 months. Permits can be renewed for a longer term but not exceed a total term of 2 years. Then section 32, which is the indication of license and professional tax receipt. The mechanical engineer shall be required to indicate his professional license number, the duration of validity, including the professional tax receipt number on the documents he signs, uses or issues in connection with the practice of his profession. Article 4, which is the practice of profession. Section 33, which is the field of action authorized for each category, and prohibition. It shall be unlawful for any person unless authorized under this act. It's unlawful to be responsible, charge of preparation of plans, designs, investigation, evaluation, technical reports, specifications, project studies, and etc. in performance of the other professional mechanical engineering activities unless he is duly licensed professional mechanical engineers. Then Section 34, personnel required in mechanical plant. In a 100 kilowatt or over but not more than 300 kilowatt plant, one certified plant mechanic or one mechanical engineer or one professional mechanical engineer is the minimum required number of personnel. And in a 300 kilowatt or over but not more than 2,000 kilowatts, one mechanical engineer or one professional mechanical engineer, or 2,000 kilowatt plant, one professional engineer, provided that it operates on a more than one shift every 24 hours. So in section 35, which is the preparation of plans for supervision of construction by licensed engineers, it is unlawful for any person to cause an alteration or fabrication on any works, designs, plans, layouts, and specifications that have been prepared by the professional engineer that is and have been duly signed and sealed. Likewise, proposals and quotations for the supply fabrications of mechanical equipment works which and pressure pipes with a working pressure of not less than 70 kPa shall be duly signed and sealed by a professional mechanical engineer. Then section 36, practice not allowed for firms and corporations. Then section 37, which is the posting of certificates. Certificates shall be posted or caused to be posted in a conspicuous place within such plant of business. The original certificates of registration of the engineer or engineers and of the certified plant mechanics are employed in each plant in a frame protected by transparent glass or its equivalent. Then section 38, which is the rosters of engineers and mechanics. So a list showing the names and place of business for all registered professional mechanical engineers, and certified plant mechanics shall be prepared by the Commission. Section 39, which is the foreign reciprocity. So no foreign mechanical engineer or mechanic shall be allowed to practice mechanical engineering or given a certificate of registration to be entitled to any of the privilege under this Act. So Section 40, enforcement of the Act by the officers of the law. The PRC or Professional Regulations Commission shall be the enforcement agency of the board. As such, the Commission shall implement the concerned provision of this Act and enforce the implementing rules and regulations as adopted by the board. Then Section 41, qualification requirements. In a government or private institution which a position requires a master degree holder, a holder of professional mechanical engineering license, shall be eligible for the position.
So Article 5, Penal and Concluding Provisions, Section 42, Penalties. In addition to the administrative and sanctions imposed under this Act, persons violated any of the provisions of this Act and its rules, regulations shall be convicted by and be penalized by fine not less than 50,000 and not more than 200,000, imprisonment of not less than 6 months or not more than 2 years, or both, in the discretion of the court.
Now let's move on to Section 43, which is the implementing rules and regulations. It is the board that shall formulate and issue the implementing rules and regulations to carry out the provision of this Act. Then Section 44, which is the funding provisions. It is included in the General Appropriations Act of the year following its enactment into law and thereafter. So Section 45, the separability clause. If any of the sections of this Act is declared unconstitutional or invalid, it does not invalidate all the other sections or portions of this Act. So now let's move on to the repealing clause, which is Section 46. So under the Commonwealth Act number 294, as amended by the Republic Act number 5336, is hereby repealed, and all other laws, parts of the law, others, ordinance, or regulations relative to the practice of mechanical engineering which are consistent with the provision of this Act are hereby repealed or modified accordingly. So, Section 47, which is the transitory provisions, a mechanical plant engineer possessing valid certificates of registration issued under Commonwealth Act number 294 with BSME degree shall, after the approval of this Act, register and be issued certificates as professional mechanical engineers to replace their original certificate of registration upon payment of the required fees. Then, if any faculty members currently teaching mechanical engineering professional subjects in university, colleges, institutes shall not be allowed to continue teaching after 5 years from the approval of this Act, unless they are or have become professional mechanical engineers. Then, next is the present board shall continue to function in the interim until such time as the new board shall be constituted. Section 48, which is the effectivity clause, and that will be all. Thank you.